That night, every powerful person in Lagos turned away from Chief Oluwasegun Balogun. Only 3 months earlier, politicians had called him brother, bankers had begged for his attention, and society women had competed for a place at his table. But now, he stood alone in the middle of a glittering ballroom, accused of stealing money meant for widows and orphan children. No court had found him guilty. It did not matter. His friends avoided his eyes. The music began. Couples filled the dance floor, and an empty circle formed around him like an invisible prison. Then, Abiola Ogunlesi did the one thing nobody expected. She placed down her drink and walked across the entire hall towards the most hated man in Lagos. People whispered that she had destroyed her reputation with a single step. But when she asked him to dance, she unknowingly opened a secret buried for 7 years, a secret connecting his downfall to the disgrace and death of her own father. And before the night ended, someone sent her a terrifying message. You should not have danced with him. The rain had stopped shortly before the guests began arriving at the Grand Hall of the Atlantic Crown Hotel on Victoria Island. Lagos shone beneath the streetlights as though the city had washed its face for the night. Polished cars rolled beneath the covered entrance. Women stepped out in lace iro and buba, their geles rising like crowns, while men adjusted the sleeves of their abbadas and greeted one another with the confidence of people who believed the city belonged to them. Inside, waiters moved between tables with trays of puff-puff, meat pies, suya bites, and chilled malts. A high-life band tuned its instruments near the far wall. The talking drum answered the saxophone, while guests exchanged business cards, discussed contracts, and carefully observed who had arrived with whom. It was the annual Unity Foundation Benefit Ball, one of those Lagos events where influential people came to raise money for widows and school children, but also to measure one another's power. A person's seat, the hands extended toward him, and the number of cameras turning in his direction could say more than any newspaper profile. For many years, Chief Oluwasegun Balogun had been one of the men everyone watched. He owned a respected shipping and logistics company, held the honorary title of Are of Ijebu Waters, and had funded boreholes, rural schools, and medical centers. Bankers called him my chairman. Politicians sought his advice. Young businessmen lowered their voices when he entered the room. But that was before the scandal. At 8:15, the master of ceremonies announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Oluwasegun Balogun." The name moved through the hall like the first rumble before a storm. Conversations did not stop. That would have been too obvious. They merely changed shape. A woman who had been laughing suddenly studied the embroidery on her sleeve. 2 men near the drinks table turned away. A senator who once called Oluwasegun his brother raised an empty glass to his lips and kept it there. Oluwasegun entered alone. He wore a dark blue agbada with silver embroidery, simple enough not to look defiant, and elegant enough not to invite pity. His beard was neatly trimmed. His shoulders remained straight. Only someone watching carefully would have noticed how slowly he breathed before each step. He knew almost everyone in the room. He had attended their weddings, burials, and naming ceremonies. Now, many of them looked through him as if he were smoke. 3 months earlier, newspapers had reported that hundreds of millions of naira had disappeared from the Balogun Community Trust, a fund created for the families of dock workers killed in industrial accidents. The articles claimed that money intended for widows and children had passed through companies connected to Oluwasegun. The headlines had shown no mercy, calling him a thief who had fed on the suffering of widows. No court had convicted him. The investigation was unfinished. His lawyers insisted that several documents had been altered and auditors had found no missing money in his personal accounts. But Lagos society did not wait for courts. A rumor could leave Ojota before sunrise and reach Lekki before breakfast. By afternoon, everyone would swear they had known the truth for years. Oluwasegun walked to the drinks table and requested soda water. The waiter handed it over without meeting his eyes. That small gesture hurt more than he expected. Oluwasegun stood near a tall window, looking at the wet road beyond the compound wall. Around him, laughter rose and fell. Life continued with the stubbornness of Lagos traffic. On the other side of the hall, Abiola Ogunlesi noticed everything. She had come with her aunt, Mrs. Moronke Ogunlesi, who believed that hiding from society only gave gossip more room to grow. Abiola disagreed, but she respected her aunt enough to attend. At 28, Abiola had learned to appear calm when she was not. She wore a wine-colored Ankara dress and had inherited her father's habit of observing before speaking. 7 years earlier, the Ogunlesi name had also filled the newspapers. Her father, Pa Oladimeji Ogunlesi, had managed a major cocoa cooperative in Ogun State. When the cooperative collapsed, thousands of farmers lost savings built over many years. The public story was simple. Oladimeji had mismanaged the funds, approved reckless loans, and hidden the damage. He died 2 years later with his name stained and his health broken. Abiola never believed the whole story. She remembered midnight visitors, arguments behind closed doors, and her father hiding documents. During his final week, he had told her, "A good name is like palm oil on white cloth. Once people see the stain, nobody asks who spilled it." After his death, friends disappeared. Relatives became cautious. People who had eaten amala and ewedu in their home began speaking of the Ogunlesi family with lowered voices and raised eyebrows. So when Oluwasegun entered and an empty circle formed around him, Abiola recognized it at once. It was not space, it was punishment. Her aunt leaned closer. "Do not stare too much. People will notice." "They have already noticed him," Abiola replied. "That is not what I mean. I know." Mrs. Moronke sighed. "My child, Lagos is not kind to people who stand beside a falling tree. They fear the branches will land on them. And if the tree is being cut down by liars." Her aunt's expression softened. Truth does not always protect the person carrying it. The band began a slow highlife song. Saxophone, guitar, and talking drum drew couples onto the open floor. Oluwasegun remained near the window. His late wife, Yetunde, used to say he could find rhythm even in a generator refusing to start. She had been gone for 4 years. That night, nobody approached him. Abiola saw his fingers tighten around the glass. His face did not change, but she understood the effort required to remain standing when a room had decided you were no longer worthy of greeting. Something inside her became certain. She placed her glass of Chapman on a passing tray. Her aunt noticed immediately. "Abiola, auntie, where are you going?" "To dance." "With whom?" Abiola looked across the hall. Mrs. Moronke followed her gaze and closed her eyes briefly. "Ah, this girl. I will be fine. That is what people say before they bring trouble home." Abiola smiled faintly. Trouble already knows our address. Then she began to walk. At first, only the nearest guests noticed. By the time Abiola reached the center of the hall, everyone understood where she was going. The noise thinned. The same people who had refused to look at Oluwasegun now watched Abiola with complete attention. Some looked shocked. Others appeared pleased, as though dessert had arrived in the form of fresh scandal. Oluwasegun saw her coming. For one unguarded second, surprise crossed his face. He knew her name, the quiet daughter of Oladimeji Ogunlesi from the disgraced Cocoa family. He placed his glass on the table. Abiola stopped before him. Up close, She saw the exhaustion of a man who had spent months defending himself before people who had chosen not to listen. "Good evening, Chief Balogun." "Good evening, Miss Ogunlesi." There was respect in his voice, not pity or curiosity. Abiola lifted her chin slightly. "Would you dance with me?" For 2 full seconds, he said nothing. Behind her, the hall seemed to hold its breath. Then he asked quietly, "Do you understand what people will say?" "Yes. They will not be gentle. They were not gentle with my father either." Something changed in his expression, not sympathy, recognition. Oluwasegun extended his hand. "Then it would be my honor." Abiola placed her hand in his. A murmur traveled through the room. They stepped onto the dance floor. The high-life rhythm was slow enough for conversation. Oluwasegun moved with restrained confidence, and Abiola followed easily. Neither tried to impress anyone, which made the dance more striking. Around them, other couples moved without ease. At the edge of the floor, Mrs. Moronke stood very still, caught between fear and pride. "You should not have done this," Oluwasegun said softly. Abiola looked at him. "Do you want me to stop?" "No." "Then why say it?" "Because courage has a price in this city. So does silence." He studied her. "You sound like someone who has paid both." "I have." They turned beneath the chandelier. The saxophone rose, warm and mournful. "Why me?" he asked. "Because I know what that empty space feels like." His steps slowed for half a beat. "My father died inside it," she continued. "Nobody struck him. Nobody shouted. They simply stopped answering his calls. They stopped visiting. They stopped saying his name unless they wanted to use it as a warning." Oluwasegun's jaw tightened. "I am sorry." "Do not be sorry. Just do not let them bury you while you are still alive." The words landed between them with unexpected force. For the first time that evening, the guarded dignity in his face opened slightly. Something fragile appeared beneath it. Gratitude. The song ended. They stepped apart. Oluwasegun inclined his head, and Abiola returned the gesture. The applause was uncertain. Some clapped only because refusing would attract attention. As Abiola turned away, Oluwasegun called softly, "Miss Ogunlesi." She looked back. "Thank you." She held his gaze. "Do not thank me yet." Before he could ask what she meant, her aunt reached her side and took her gently by the arm. "Come," Mrs. Moronke said, "before you decide to challenge the whole of Lagos in one night." For the rest of the evening, gossip gathered around them like mosquitoes near lantern light. Some called Abiola reckless. Others said 2 ruined families had naturally found each other. She did not regret the dance. Near 11 o'clock, she and her aunt prepared to leave. Rain had begun again, tapping lightly on the roof above the entrance. Drivers hurried forward with umbrellas. As Abiola stepped outside, a young steward approached. "Madame, excuse me." He held out a cream-colored envelope. "For me?" "Yes, madame." "Who gave it to you?" "One gentleman. He has gone." "What gentleman?" "I do not know him." Mrs. Moronke frowned. "Give it back." But the steward had already placed it in Abiola's hand and retreated into the hall. There was no seal, only her name written in narrow black ink. Abiola Ogunlesi. She slipped it into her handbag. Her aunt watched her. "You will open it at home." "Yes, auntie, and not alone." Abiola did not answer. By the time they reached Yaba, rain covered the roads, while downfall conductors shouted through the storm as if weather had never stopped Lagos before. At home, Mrs. Moronke went to check whether the generator had enough fuel for the night. Abiola entered her room, locked the door, and removed the envelope. Inside was a single folded sheet. "Your father did not steal from the cocoa farmers. The same people who destroyed him are now destroying Oluwasegun Balogun. If you want the truth, Come to the old railway warehouse in Abeokuta on Thursday at noon. Come alone. Abiola read the note once, then again. Outside, the generator coughed, failed, and returned with a low growl. Somewhere in the compound, her aunt complained that any PA had taken the light at the worst possible moment. Abiola sat slowly on the edge of her bed. For 7 years, she had carried questions that nobody wanted to answer. She had learned to live beside them, the way people in Lagos learn to sleep beside traffic noise, never truly unaware, only accustomed. Now, after one dance, the questions had spoken back, and they had called her by name. Abiola did not sleep well that night. She kept seeing the cream-colored envelope on the bedside table. Your father did not steal from the cocoa farmers. For 7 years, she had trained herself not to hope. Hope without evidence could make a person trust shadows and reopen old wounds. By dawn, her decision was made. She would go to Abeokuta. At breakfast, Mrs. Moronke placed akara beside a bowl of pap and watched her carefully. "You did not sleep," she said. "I slept. You turned in your bed until nearly 4. Abiola looked toward the window. Morning traffic had already begun outside, with horns, hawkers, and the cry of a woman selling bread. Her aunt lowered her voice. What was in the envelope? For a moment, Abiola considered telling her. Mrs. Moronke had remained when others disappeared and opened her home when the Ogunlesi house was seized. "It may be a foolish prank," Abiola said. "Then throw it away." Abiola said nothing. Mrs. Moronke's eyes narrowed. "Ah, so it is not a prank. I need to confirm something." "Where?" "Abeokuta." "No, I have already decided." "Then why tell me?" "Because I do not want to lie to you. You already lied at breakfast." Mrs. Moronke did not smile. "Your father believed every problem could be solved if a good person stood firm long enough. It is a beautiful belief, but the world does not always reward it. I will be careful. There is no small snake when it is inside your room." When Abiola left 2 days later, she found groundnuts, 2 boiled eggs, and folded money inside her handbag. The gesture carried both protest and love. The bus left Ojota shortly after 7. It was an old Peugeot with faded curtains and a driver who treated every opening in traffic as an invitation from God. Across the aisle, 2 men argued about the price of garri while a young man read a newspaper. Oluwasegun Balogun's photograph was on the front page. The headline asked whether the disgraced businessman would soon be arrested. Abiola turned toward the road. Beyond Lagos, concrete gave way to red earth, roadside stalls, and cooking fires. At one stop, hawkers surrounded the bus with plantain chips, gala, and water. By the time they reached Abeokuta, the sun was high. Rust-colored roofs spread across the hills, and Olumo Rock stood in the distance like an old witness. Abiola found a taxi near Kuto and gave the driver the location written in the notes. He looked at her in the mirror. "Madam, nothing is happening at that old railway warehouse." "I know. Are you sure?" "Yes." The warehouse stood beyond a neglected rail line, surrounded by elephant grass and broken fencing. Its walls were cracked, and the roof had rusted into different shades of brown. Abiola paid the driver but asked him to wait. Inside, the building smelled of dust and old wood. Sunlight entered through holes in the roof. "Hello," she called. A voice came from behind broken crates. "You came alone." A short elderly man stepped forward. He wore a brown kaftan, leather sandals, and a cap pulled low over his forehead. His shoulders were narrow, but his eyes remained alert. "Who are you?" "Samuel Aderoju." "You worked for the Farmers Cooperative." "I was assistant accountant." "My father said you were afraid of your own shadow." The man gave a tired smile. Your father was not wrong. Did you send the notes? Yes. How did you know I would attend the ball? I did not. I went there to watch Chief Balogun. Then I saw you cross the hall. Why were you watching him? Because what happened to your father is happening again. Aderoju led her into a small office at the back. There were 2 chairs and a metal table covered with dust. Your father discovered a pattern inside the cooperative accounts, he began. At first, it looked like ordinary loss. Bad harvests, unpaid loans, transport costs. But money was moving through companies that did not truly exist. Who controlled them? Chief Joseph Bamboshe. Everyone knew the name. Bamboshe chaired Crown Continental Bank, funded scholarships, and sat beside governors at ceremonies. He was my father's friend, she said. No, he allowed your father to believe they were friends. Aderoju removed a folded photocopy from an old leather bag. The cooperative's name was visible at the top. Bamboshe arranged loans for cocoa farmers through companies he secretly controlled. When they could not repay, their land passed to those companies. Your father realized the collapse was designed. Abiola studied the page. This proves nothing. I know. Your father found more. Where? I do not know. She looked up sharply. He stopped trusting everyone near the end, Aderoju said, especially me. Why? Because I helped sign some of the transfers. Anger rose through her. You helped them? I followed instructions. That is what cowards say when consequences arrive. The old man lowered his eyes. Yes. By the time I understood, he continued, your father was already trapped. Some signatures were his, others had been altered. To the public, it made no difference. And you remained silent. I had 3 children. My father had a family too. I know. No, you do not. Aderoju accepted the blow without protest. After a moment, he said, Chief Balogun refused to sell waterfront land in Apapa to a company connected to Bambose. He also discovered irregular payments in the community trust. So they destroyed him first. Yes, this time they used real transactions mixed with false instructions. Enough truth to make the lie difficult to separate. Abiola remembered Oluwasegun standing beside the window while the entire hall punished him without touching him. Why contact me now? Because he's running out of time, and because you may still have what your father hid. My family lost almost everything. Almost is not everything. Aderoju leaned closer. During his final months, your father told me, the day will come when Abiola must look where the family keeps the voices of those who came before us. She remembered her father kneeling beside ceremonial drums wrapped in white cloth at the old family house. The drums, she whispered. That is what I thought. Why wait 7 years? Because I was afraid. Each year I told myself the truth was safer if buried. What changed? My eldest son died last year. At the burial, I realized silence had not protected me. It only allowed me to live long enough to become ashamed. The taxi horn sounded outside. Aderoju rose. Do not take anything you find straight to the police, he warned. Some officers answer to people with deeper pockets than government salaries. Then who do I trust? For now, no one completely, not even Chief Balogun. You said he was innocent. I said he is being framed. Innocence in one matter does not make a man safe in every matter. Before she could question him, he slipped through a rear door and disappeared into the tall grass. Abiola returned to Lagos with a photocopy hidden inside her handbag. Mrs. Moronke waited in the sitting room beside an untouched pot of jollof rice. You are late, her aunt said. The traffic near Beja was terrible. Do not tell me about traffic. Tell me whether you found what you went to look for." Abiola removed the photocopy and placed it on the table. "I found a name, Joseph Bamboshe." Her aunt's face changed. It was not surprise, it was fear. "You know something," Abiola said. Mrs. Morunke glanced towards the windows. "Your father argued with him before the scandal." "Why did you never tell me?" "Because after your father died, I wanted one person in this family to live without looking over her shoulder." "That was not your decision to make. It became my decision when I was the one left to bury him." Silence followed. Then her aunt pressed her fingers to her forehead. "Bambose came to the house after the newspapers began attacking your father. He offered to settle the debts if Oladimeji signed over farmland near Sagamu and the old warehouse rights. Papa refused. Yes, after that, things became worse." Abiola looked at the photocopy. Samuel Aderoju says Papa hid documents. Mrs. Moronke stepped back at the name. "That man disappeared. He is alive. Then he should have remained disappeared. I am done living inside suspicion." Her aunt looked at her. "Will you walk into Crown Continental Bank and ask Bambose to confess?" "No, I will find what Papa hid." For a long moment, Mrs. Moronke said nothing. Then she whispered, "The drums are in the Ibarra house." The next morning, before they could leave Lagos, the newspapers brought new trouble. A witness had reportedly submitted a statement claiming that Oluwasegun personally ordered payments from the community trust into a shell company called Meridian Coastal Services. The witness's name was withheld. The report said arrest was now likely. At the same time, in his Ikoyi home, Oluwasegun stood in his study with the same newspaper open on his desk. Barrister Tunde Karim sat opposite him. "This witness may be genuine," Tunde said, "or planted. Helpful distinction. The company received money from the trust. I know. And your signature appears on the approval. My signature appears on a cover document. The instruction beneath it was changed. Can you prove that?" "Not yet." Oluwasegun had facts and fragments, but no chain strong enough for court. Tunde removed his glasses. "A reporter called me this morning. He said a woman connected to an old cocoa cooperative case has begun asking questions about Joseph Bamboshe." "Which woman?" He did not say, but Oluwasegun already knew. Abiola. Concern reached him before hope. He remembered her saying that silence also had a price. "Find out where she is," he said. "For the case? For her safety." That afternoon, Abiola and her aunt reached the old Ogunlesi house in Ibarra. The house had once been full of relatives and cooking pots. Now dust covered the photographs. Beneath folded asowoke, they found one large iyailu and two smaller talking drums. Abiola knelt. Her father's words returned to her. "Look where the family keeps the voices of those who came before us." The first drum held nothing. The second contained only cloth. The base of the third felt heavier than it should. "Auntie, bring me the knife." "That drum belonged to your grandfather. I think Papa used it." Abiola carefully lifted a strip of leather beneath the base. A small panel shifted. Inside was a package wrapped in oilcloth. Her hands trembled as she pulled it free. The bundle contained letters, bank records, and a black notebook filled with her father's handwriting. Some pages held names. Others showed arrows between companies, dates, and account numbers. Near the middle, one name appeared repeatedly: Joseph Bambose. Abiola turned another page and saw a second name: Meridian Coastal Services, the same company named in the accusation against Oluwasegun. Her aunt covered her mouth. "This did not begin with Chief Balogun," Abiola said. "No, it began long before him." A sound came from the front of the house. Both women froze. Footsteps crossed the veranda. Then someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. Mrs. Morunke whispered, "Nobody knows we are here." Abiola wrapped the documents and pushed them beneath the drum. The knock came again. A man's voice called from outside, "Miss Ogunlesi, I have a message from Chief Oluwasegun Balogun." Abiola and her aunt looked at one another. Neither moved, because Samuel Aderoju had warned her not to trust anyone completely. And now, less than an hour after she had uncovered her father's secrets, a man claiming to speak for Oluwasegun was standing at the door. Abiola did not move toward the door. The man outside waited, then knocked again. "Miss Ogunlesi, my name is Kunle Adeyemi. I work for Chief Balogun. I have a letter with his seal." Mrs. Moronke whispered, "Anybody can say anything from behind a door." "Slide it under," Abiola called. An envelope appeared beneath the gap. It bore the initials OB in dark blue wax. "Miss Ogunlesi, I have reason to believe your recent inquiries may place you in danger. Return to Lagos without delay. Mr. Kunle Adeyemi has served my household for 12 years and may be trusted to arrange safe transport. Oluwasegun Balogun." Abiola read it twice. "How did Chief Balogun know where to find me?" she asked through the door. "Barrister Karim heard that you traveled towards Abeokuta. Chief Balogun asked me to check the old Ogunlesi properties." "Are you alone?" "Yes, madam." She looked through a crack in the shutter. A tall man in a cream kaftan stood beside a grey Peugeot 505. Abiola opened the door only halfway. Kunle's face carried the patience of a man used to serving difficult people without becoming timid. "I am sorry for arriving without warning," he said. "You should be." "Yes, madam." Then he glanced toward the road. "A black Mercedes has passed this house twice. We should leave." Abiola shut the door and returned to the drums. "We are taking the documents." They divided the papers between 2 ordinary market bags. Mrs. Moronke covered one bundle with dried peppers and folded wrappers. The black notebook remained in Abiola's handbag. "No one searches an older woman who looks angry enough," her aunt said. "You always look angry enough. That is why we are still alive." They left 5 minutes later. At the end of the street, a black Mercedes waited beneath an almond tree. As the Peugeot passed, it pulled onto the road. Kunle saw it in the mirror. "Do not turn around." Mrs. Moronke immediately turned around. "It is following us." Kunle took a side road crowded with traders, okadas, and wheelbarrows of yam. The Mercedes stayed behind them. At Kuto, traffic thickened. Conductors shouted destinations while hawkers moved between cars with oranges, bread, and newspapers balanced on their heads. Kunle changed lanes twice, passed through a petrol station, and joined the road towards Sagamo. The Mercedes disappeared. "Have we lost them?" Abiola asked. "For now." "For now" is not comforting. It is honest. They reached Oluwasegun's Ikoyi residence after sunset. The house stood behind high walls on a quiet street. It was large but subdued, carrying the silence of a place where people had learned to speak softly. Oluwasegun entered the sitting room in a plain white kaftan. Without the formal agbada of the benefit ball, he looked more tired and more human. "I am relieved you returned safely," Mrs. Moronke answered first. "You sent a man to my family house without warning. I apologize, ma. In these times, even a goat knocking at the door must explain who sent it." "You are right." Abiola studied him. "Why were you looking for me?" "Someone told a reporter that a woman connected to the Ogunlesi cooperative case had begun asking questions about Joseph Bamboshe." The name changed the room. "Who told the reporter?" He refused to say. "Then we have a leak. Possibly, or someone wanted me to hear that you were involved." They sat opposite one another. Abiola removed the black notebook and placed it on the table. Oluwasegun looked at it but did not touch it. "What is that?" "My father's handwriting." Mrs. Morunke gave her a warning look. "We agreed not to show everything." "We are not." Oluwasegun noticed the distinction. "You found documents." Abiola opened the notebook to a page where Meridian Coastal Services appeared beside Joseph Bamboshe's name. His expression changed. He crossed to a locked desk and removed several sheets covered with dates, company names, and connecting lines. He laid them beside the notebook. The same company appeared in both: Meridian Coastal Services. "My father recorded payments to this company before the cocoa cooperative collapsed," Abiola said, "and money from the community trust passed through it this year." "Who owns it?" "On paper, a retired civil servant in Ilorin. And in reality, I have not proved it." "Bamboshe?" "I believe so." "Belief is not proof." "No, it is only where proof begins." Barrister Tunde Karim arrived 20 minutes later with a briefcase and a strained expression. He greeted Mrs. Morunke properly and examined the notebook without touching it. "This handwriting must be verified." "It can be." "And the original documents?" "Safe." "Where?" Abiola looked at him. Tunde raised both hands. A lawyer must ask. And a sensible woman does not always answer. Mrs. Morunke nodded. Oluwasegun almost smiled. Tunde turned serious. "The witness statement against Chief Balogun has been accepted. The committee may request his arrest within days." "Who is the witness?" Oluwasegun asked. "They still will not release the name." Abiola closed the notebook. "What exactly are they accusing you of ordering?" 3 payments from the community trust to Meridian Coastal Services. The stated purpose was safety equipment for dock workers. Nothing arrived. "Did you sign them?" "I signed approval for a legitimate supplier in Port Harcourt. The instruction beneath my signature was changed." "Can you prove it?" "Not yet." Tunde added, "That is the problem." "What happened when you noticed the irregularities?" Abiola asked. "I demanded a full reconciliation." 2 days later, the trust's finance director resigned. A week after that, Bamboshe visited me. "What did he want?" "My waterfront land in Apapa." "At what price?" "Less than half its value." "And when you refused?" "He advised me not to carry too many burdens at once." Mrs. Morunke clicked her tongue. That was a threat. At the time, it sounded like the kind of insult rich men call advice. "What is on the land?" Abiola asked. "Warehouses, staff housing, and an old jetty. Crown Continental Bank is financing a private port nearby. My land gives access to the road they need." The shape of the scheme became clearer. Bamboshe did not destroy people for sport. He destroyed them when their land, name, or questions stood between him and profits. Abiola turned another page. "Do you know Chukwuma Okonkwo?" Oluwasegun shook his head. Tunde did not. "Chukwuma worked at Crown Continental Bank," he said. "Internal audits, then special accounts. He resigned suddenly about 18 months ago. My father wrote his name beside 3 transfers." "This may be coincidence," Tunde said. "Coincidence is what people call a pattern before they are ready to admit it frightens them." Oluwasegun looked at her with something close to admiration. Mrs. Morunke noticed. "What happens now?" she asked. "We authenticate the notebook, examine the other papers, and locate Chukwuma," Tunde replied. "And while you do that, my niece continues being followed?" Oluwasegun spoke before Tunde could. "She should stay somewhere secure." Abiola's expression cooled. "I am sitting here." "I know." "Then speak to me, not about me." He accepted the correction. "You should remain somewhere secure." "No." Abiola. It was the first time he used her given name. "The men behind this already destroyed one member of your family," he said, "and they will continue if everyone hides. That does not mean you should make yourself an easy target. I am not asking your permission. I am not trying to give it. Then do not arrange my life as if I am one of your employees." Oluwasegun drew a breath. "You are right. I spoke badly." The apology unsettled her more than an argument would have. "But I will not pretend your safety does not matter to me," he continued. "We met once. You crossed a room when people who had known me for 20 years would not cross 3 steps. That creates no depth. No, it creates responsibility." Abiola held his gaze. The responsibility is shared. If these papers can clear both our families, then we investigate together. Tunde removed his glasses. "That is not my legal recommendation. No one asked for it," Mrs. Moronke said. He put his glasses back on. "Understood, Mummy." They agreed that only copies would be examined. The originals would remain divided between locations known only to Abiola and her aunt. Oluwasegun would provide his records. Tunde would search for Chukwuma without mentioning the Ogunlesi papers. Their first meeting ended after midnight. Before Abiola left, Oluwasegun walked her to the veranda. "You believe me now?" he asked. "I believe our enemies may be the same." "That was not my question." "No." He looked into the rain. "For what it is worth, I did not take that money. My father said innocence is not something one person can lend another. Each person must prove his own. And what do you say?" "I say I have not yet seen you lie." It was not trust, but it was more than almost anyone had given him in 3 months. Over the following 2 weeks, Abiola returned to the Ikoyi house 4 times. They met in Oluwasegun's study, usually after the household staff had gone. Kunle brought ginger tea, chin-chin, and sometimes moi-moi wrapped in leaves. Mrs. Moronke attended the first 2 meetings. By the third, she began leaving them alone for short periods, though never without announcing when she expected Abiola home. The work was slow. Her father's notes used abbreviations only he understood. Oluwasegun's own records were precise but incomplete. Together, the 2 sets reviewed movements neither could explain alone. A transfer from the Cocoa Cooperative in 1985 reappeared under a new company name in a property purchase 2 years later. A director from her father's records later became secretary of Meridian Coastal Services. Payments from Oluwasegun's trust had passed through accounts once associated with Crown Continental Bank's agricultural division. One evening, Abiola pointed to a name, Adekunle Salami. "He was finance director of the community trust," Oluwasegun said. "The one who resigned?" "Yes." "My father wrote that he attended a meeting in Abeokuta in 1986. "That is impossible. Salami told me he had never walked outside Lagos." "Then either my father was wrong or Salami lied." Oluwasegun pulled a file from the cabinet. Beside Salami's name was a company called Oasis Produce and Holdings. Oasis had guaranteed one of Meridian Coastal's loans. For the first time, they had a direct bridge between the old cocoa fraud and the new trust scandal. Abiola leaned back. "Together, we have something. Separately, we had only suspicions." Their eyes met across the papers. Then, the telephone rang. Oluwasegun answered. His face changed before he spoke. "What happened?" He listened, then said, "Do not touch anything. I am coming." Abiola stood. "What is it?" "Someone broke into my company office." Tunde arrived there ahead of them. Drawers had been opened, cabinets forced, and papers scattered across the floor. Nothing valuable appeared missing. The safe remained locked. On Oluwasegun's desk lay a strip of red asoke. Abiola recognized the pattern immediately. It matched the wrapper her father had worn in the last formal photograph taken before his death. Pinned to the cloth was a note. The dead should remain buried. The living should learn from them. Oluwasegun read it once and folded the paper. His anger did not rise loudly. It settled into him like iron. They know about the notebook, Tunde said. No, Abiola replied. They know about my father. Oluwasegun turned toward her. For the first time since their alliance began, she saw fear in his face. Not fear for himself, fear for her. And that frightened her more than the note. The red Aso Oke remained on Oluwasegun's desk long after everyone else had stopped looking at it. Abiola stood near the broken cabinet, her arms folded tightly across her chest. The office smelled of dust, paper, and the sharp metal scent of the forced locks. Outside, Lagos traffic moved as if nothing had happened. Oluwasegun's voice hardened. Someone knows where you have been. Someone knows what your father wore. Someone entered my office to reach you. I will not pretend this is ordinary. And I will not disappear into one of your guest rooms while you continue without me. I did not ask you to disappear. You arranged security outside my aunt's house without telling me. His silence confirmed it. Abiola's eyes flashed. Since when? Since Abeokuta. You had men watching us, protecting you, without permission. I was trying to keep you alive. I have kept myself alive for 28 years, and your father believed he could do the same. The words left his mouth before he could stop them. Abiola went completely still. Oluwasegun's face changed at once. Abiola, no, I should not have said that. No, you should not have. She picked up her handbag. Mrs. Moronke, who had been waiting outside with Kunle, entered just as Abiola reached the door. What happened? Asked Chief Balogun. Abiola walked past her. Oluwasegun took one step after her, then stopped. He knew that following would turn concern into pursuit. Mrs. Moronke looked from him to the open door. What did you say? Something cruel. Was it true? That does not matter. It matters. Truth can still be used like a knife. Oluwasegun looked towards the corridor where Abiola had disappeared. I know. For 3 days, Abiola refused his calls. She continued working from the dining table in Yaba, surrounded by copies of her father's papers. Mrs. Moronke moved around her with the heavy silence of a woman who wanted to interfere but had decided to let pride exhaust itself first. Kunle stood outside the gate on the 4th evening. Chief Balogun did not send me, he said quickly. Barrister Karim did. Abiola let him enter. Tunde found Chukwuma Okonkwo. The name changed everything. Chukwuma was living near Ibadan under the name Charles Nwosu. He taught bookkeeping at a private commercial college and rented 2 rooms behind a pharmacy. He agreed to speak? Abiola asked. No, he told the man who approached him never to return. Then we go ourselves, Kunle hesitated. Chief Balogun believes one person should go. 2 visitors may look like pressure. Chief Balogun can believe what he likes. Mrs. Moronke sighed. Abiola arrived at Oluwasegun's house the next morning before 9. He was in the courtyard speaking with a mechanic beside a silent generator. When he saw her, relief crossed his face, followed quickly by caution. Good morning. Good morning. Abiola stopped beneath the shade of an almond tree. I came because of Chukwuma. I assume so. I am still angry. You should be. I do not accept being watched without my knowledge. You are right, and you will not use my father's death to frighten me again. I will not. His apology carried no defense, and that made it harder for her to remain distant. Oluwasegun continued, but I cannot promise not to be afraid for you. She looked at him. My wife died 4 years ago, he said. A road accident outside Shagamu. I had insisted she travel that night because I wanted her at a family ceremony the next morning. The accident was not my fault, but guilt does not always respect facts. Abiola said nothing. Since then, when I see danger near someone I care about, I try to control everything around it. The phrase, "someone I care about," hung between them. He seemed to hear it only after speaking. Abiola's voice softened slightly. Control is not the same as protection. I am learning. Slowly. I have been accused of worse. A brief smile almost reached her face. They traveled to Ibadan with Tunde and Kunle. Mrs. Moronke insisted on remaining in Lagos to guard the originals. Chukwuma's building stood behind a row of shops selling medicine, phone cards, and second-hand textbooks. He opened the door only after Tunde called his real name. Chukwuma was in his early 50s, thin, with a face made older by sleeplessness. He wore a faded short-sleeved shirt and held the door as if prepared to shut it at any moment. I told your man to leave me alone. He was not my man, Oluwasegun said. Chukwuma recognized him and laughed without humor. So the newspaper's favorite thief has come to meet an old coward. Abiola stepped forward. My name is Abiola Ogunlesi. The laughter stopped. Chukwuma's eyes moved over her face. You look like your father. People say that when they want me to forgive them. You have 10 minutes. Tunde spoke carefully. You gave evidence to the committee investigating Chief Balogun. Chukwuma's eyes sharpened. So that is why you came. You are the unnamed witness, Abiola said. He said nothing. Oluwasegun remained calm. Did you testify that I ordered those transfers? I testified that your signature appeared on the documents. That is not the same thing. No, but committees like clean sentences. Were the instructions changed? Chukwuma looked down at his hands. Abiola understood before he answered. Yes, he said. The room seemed to contract. By whom? She asked. Not here. You said we had 10 minutes. I have changed my mind. You have none. He stood. Oluwasegun did not move. Bamboshe threatened you. Chukwuma's face closed. He did not need to threaten me directly. Men like that rarely dirty their hands with clear words. What did he use? Abiola asked. My daughter. The answer silenced them. She was studying nursing in Enugu. Her scholarship came through Crown Continental Foundation. When I refused to sign the revised statements, the scholarship vanished. Then she was accused of examination fraud. Was it true? Tunde asked. No. Chukwuma's voice broke for the first time. They told me the accusation would disappear if I cooperated. I gave evidence that was technically true and morally false. Abiola thought of Samuel Aderoju saying he had children. My father lost everything because people protected themselves one small silence at a time, she said. Chukwuma looked at her. Do you think I do not know that? Knowing is not the same as repairing. He turned away. For a long moment, only the stove flame made sound. Then Chukwuma reached behind the accounting books and removed a small brass key. When I left the bank, I kept one ledger, the original special accounts register. It contains approval codes, dates and initials. Bamboshe's own authorization appears on 6 transfers. Where is it? Oluwasegun asked. In a safe deposit box in Ibadan. Will you give it to us? No. Abiola's disappointment showed. I will show it to you, Chukwuma said. I will not hand it over until I know my daughter is safe. Tunde leaned forward. We may be able to challenge the accusation against her. You may. Bamboshe can destroy her before you finish writing your first letter. Oluwasegun spoke quietly. What do you need? A transfer to another school, new records, a place where his people cannot reach her easily. That can be arranged. Chukwuma gave a bitter smile. And then I become your bought witness. No, you become a father who no longer has a knife at his throat. I will take you to the ledger tomorrow. They left Ibadan after dark. On the return journey, Abiola sat beside Oluwasegun again. You should not promise what you cannot guarantee, she said. I can help his daughter. That is not what I mean. You think I promised because I need him? Did you? Yes. The honesty surprised her. And because he is being used, Oluwasegun continued. Both things can be true. She looked at him in the dim light from passing vehicles. My aunt says fear can be love wearing work clothes. Your aunt is a wise woman. She also says wealthy men often hear wisdom only after paying for it. That sounds like her. The next morning, Chukwuma did not appear. They waited outside the bank for nearly an hour. Tunde checked the college. Chukwuma had not arrived for work. Kule returned from the apartment with troubling news. The door was open, the rooms had been searched, and the brass key was gone. On the table, someone had left a typed message. The ledger no longer exists. At the same time, Mrs. Moronke telephoned from Lagos. Her voice was controlled, but Abiola heard fear beneath it. 2 men came to the house, she said. They claimed to be from the electricity company. Are you hurt? No. Kule security men fighting them away. What did they want? They asked which room belonged to you. Oluwasegun took the telephone from Abiola. Mommy, lock the gate. Do not open for anyone. We are coming back. When he returned the receiver, Tunde was staring at the typed notes. There is only one explanation, he said. Someone told them about Chukwuma, Abiola replied. We discussed the meeting only in my study, Oluwasegun said. The names of everyone who knew passed silently between them. Tunde, Kunle, Mrs. Moronke, members of Oluwasegun's household, or Oluwasegun himself. Abiola hated that the thought entered her mind. Oluwasegun saw it. You think it may be me? I think we cannot afford to exclude anyone. Pain crossed his face, but he nodded. You are right. They drove back to Lagos without finding Chukwuma. That evening, Kule discovered something in the telephone records from Oluwasegun's study. A call had been made after midnight on the night before their journey to Ibadan. The number belonged to a private office inside Crown Continental Bank. The call had come from the extension used by barrister Tunde Karim whenever he worked late in the house. Oluwasegun stared at the record. Tunde had advised his family for 16 years. He had defended him when newspapers attacked, traced Chukwuma and attended every private meeting. And now the evidence pointed directly toward him. Abiola stood beside Oluwasegun in the silent study. Do not confront him yet, she said. He may have handed Chukwuma to them. Or someone used his extension because they wanted us to believe that. Oluwasegun looked at the telephone. For months, he had believed the worst part of disgrace was discovering how quickly friends could leave. Now he understood there was something worse. Discovering that one of the people who stayed might never have been loyal at all. Oluwasegun did not sleep that night. He remained in the study long after Abiola had gone home. The telephone record spread across his desk beside the red Asooke and the warning from Ibadan. For 16 years, Tunde Karim had been more than a lawyer. He had stood beside Oluwasegun at his wife's burial and known every weakness in his business. If Tunde had betrayed him, the attack had been built from within. At 6 in the morning, Abiola returned. You look terrible, she said. So do you. I slept. That makes one of us. She poured the coffee into 2 cups and placed one before him. Kule checked the line again, she said. The call was made from Tunde's extension at 12:43. But that does not prove he made it. Who else had access? Anyone inside the house. My staff have been with me for years. So had Tunde. Oluwasegun looked at her. Do you enjoy being correct at inconvenient times? No, it is exhausting. Despite everything, he smiled. They decided not to confront Tunde. Instead, they would give him false information and watch where it traveled. At 10, Tunde arrived carrying his briefcase. We may have another lead, Oluwasegun told him. Chukwuma kept copies of the ledger in a church archive near Bodija. A pastor will meet us tomorrow evening. Tunde leaned forward. Which church? St. Matthew's Anglican Church. Who is the pastor? Reverend Bamidele. Every detail was invented. Abiola saw his left thumb rub the side of his briefcase, a habit she had noticed when he was uneasy. That is good news, he said. We should move carefully. We will, Abiola replied. After he left, Kunle followed at a distance. By afternoon, Tunde had gone to his chambers, spent an hour there, and then driven to Crown Continental Bank. He entered through a private rear gate. Oluwasegun received the report in silence. Now we confront him, he said. No, now we see what Bambushe does. That evening, 2 men broke into St. Matthew's Parish office in Ibadan. They found no archive, no ledger, and no Reverend Bamidele. The trap had worked. Tunde had carried the information directly to Bambushe. Oluwasegun summoned him the next morning. Tunde entered the study, saw Abiola, Kunle, and the telephone records on the table, and stopped. Then Oluwasegun said, "Sit down." Tunde remained standing. "How long?" "Oluwasegun, how long have you been speaking to Bambushe?" Tunde closed his eyes briefly. "Since the investigation began." Abiola felt anger rise, but Oluwasegun's voice stayed quiet. "Why?" "My chambers were collapsing. I had debts, school fees, medical bills for my mother. Bambushe offered work." "So you sold him my files?" "I gave him information I believed he already had." "You told him about Chukwuma?" Tunde said nothing. "You sent men after a frightened witness," Abiola said. "No, I told Bambushe that we had found him. I did not know they would take him." Men like Bambushe never ask for information because they enjoy conversation. Tunde looked at Oluwasegun. "I never wanted you imprisoned. You only wanted me frightened enough to sell. I thought if you gave him the land, he would stop. And the widows, the farmers, Abiola's father?" Tunde's voice dropped. "I told myself those things were already done." Oluwasegun stood. That is how evil grows in respectable rooms. Everyone tells himself the worst part happened before he arrived. Tunde flinched. "Where is Chukwuma?" "I do not know." "Where is the ledger?" "I do not know." "Then what do you know?" Tunde hesitated. "Bambushe is holding a private dinner in 3 days at the Grand Meridian Hotel. Bank directors, 2 commissioners, senior journalists, and members of the Federal Finance Committee will attend. He intends to announce the Apapa Port project." Oluwasegun's eyes narrowed. "And my land?" "He plans to say negotiations are complete. They are not. He expects you to surrender before the dinner." Abiola understood. Because if he announces the project publicly, investors will assume the land is secured. Tunde nodded. He also believes the original ledger has been destroyed. "Has it?" Oluwasegun asked. "I do not know." Oluwasegun walked to the door and opened it. "You will leave your briefcase. Kunle will search it." Tunde stared at him. "After everything we have been through?" "After everything we have been through, you should be grateful I am allowing you to walk out." Tunde's shoulders sagged. Before leaving, he turned to Abiola. "I am sorry about your father." She looked at him without warmth. "Do not apologize to the dead when you are still helping the men who killed them." After he left, Kunle found a small recorder inside the briefcase. The last tape contained part of their discussion about Chukwuma. Yet, the exposure created a new problem. Their lawyer had been compromised, the ledger was missing, and the dinner was only 3 days away. That afternoon, Mrs. Moronke arrived with food because, as she said, people who planned war on empty stomachs would soon begin fighting one another. She set down bowls of jollof rice, fried plantain, and goat meat, then listened as Abiola explained. When she finished, Mrs. Moronke shook her head. "A house does not fall because one wall is weak. It falls because people see the crack and keep hanging pictures over it." "We need legal guidance," Oluwasegun said. "I know someone," Abiola replied. Her father had once trusted a young solicitor named Fumilayo Adeoti, one of the few people who had questioned the cooperative investigation. After Oladimeji's death, Fumilayo left private practice and joined the public interest legal organization. They found her office in Surulere. Fumilayo, sharp-eyed and direct, read the copies for nearly 2 hours. "This is not enough for conviction," she said, "but it is enough to force a serious investigation if released properly." "Bambose will call them forgeries," Oluwasegun said. "He will. That is why the evidence must reach several people at the same time." Abiola leaned forward. "The dinner." Fumilayo studied her. "You want to confront him in public. We want to make suppression impossible. That is different and wiser." Copies of the Ogunlesi papers, Oluwasegun's financial map, and the recording found in Tunde's briefcase would be prepared in separate sealed packets. One would go to an editor at the Daily Concord, another to a retired judge known for refusing political pressure, a third to a member of the Federal Finance Committee already suspicious of Crown Continental Bank. But without Chukwuma, Bamboshe could still claim that the chain of evidence was incomplete. That night, the telephone rang at Mrs. Moronke's house. Abiola answered. Then a man whispered, "Do not say my name." She recognized Chukwuma. "Where are you?" "Safe for the moment." "What happened?" "They came to my room before dawn. I left through the back window." "And the ledger?" A pause. "They took the key." Her hope dropped. "But the key was never for the real box," he continued. "I expected someone would come eventually." Abiola gripped the receiver. "Where is it?" "At the commercial college, inside an old adding machine in the storeroom." "Can you get it?" "Not alone." Kule drove Abiola, Oluwasegun and Chukwuma to Ibadan in a car borrowed from Fumilayo's organization. Chukwuma looked thinner than before and kept glancing behind them. The college compound was quiet. A watchman recognized Chukwuma and allowed them through. The storeroom smelled of chalk and damp paper. Chukwuma opened an old metal adding machine with a screwdriver. Inside the hollow base lay a cloth-wrapped ledger. He placed it in Oluwasegun's hands. Pages carried account codes, transfer dates, and initials. Near 6 major payments appeared the same authorization mark, J.O.B., Joseph Olaitan Bambose. Chukwuma pointed to a later entry. "This is the money taken from the community trust. Here is the original supplier. Here is the altered beneficiary. And here is the approval code entered from Bambose's private office." "Will you testify?" Abiola asked. Fear moved across his face. "If I appear, my daughter may still suffer." Fumilayo had already arranged for the girl to transfer to a teaching hospital in Ghana through a church medical program, Oluwasegun told him. Chukwuma covered his face with both hands. "I have spent 18 months telling myself I was protecting her," he whispered. "Perhaps I was only teaching her that fear is stronger than truth." He lowered his hands. "I will speak." 2 days later, the Grand Meridian Hotel glittered above Marina. Chief Joseph Bamboshe stood beneath crystal lights, greeting guests with both hands extended. He wore a white agbada embroidered with gold and the calm smile of a man who believed every road in the city eventually passed through his gate. Oluwasegun arrived at 8:10. The hall quieted. Bamboshe crossed the room. "My dear Segun," he said warmly, as though greeting an old friend. "I did not expect you. That is why I came." Bamboshe's smile remained. "I hope you are here to end this unfortunate misunderstanding." "I am here to end something." Abiola entered with Mrs. Moronke a few minutes later. Fumilayo stood near the press table. Kule waited by his side entrance. Chukwuma had not yet appeared. Dinner began. Bamboshe spoke about progress, employment, and the future of Nigerian trade. He praised transparency and promised that the new port would serve ordinary citizens, not only the wealthy. Oluwasegun listened without moving. During the applause, Fumilayo gave the signal. 3 packets left her hands and traveled in different directions across the hall. Oluwasegun stood. Ladies and gentlemen, before this project is celebrated, there is a matter the public deserves to understand. Bamboshe's smile vanished by only a fraction. Oluwasegun stepped into the center of the room. For months, I have been accused of stealing from widows and children. Tonight, I am presenting documents showing that those accusations were constructed to force the sale of my land and conceal a financial scheme that began years before my case. He named Meridian Coastal Services. He described the altered payment instructions and the connection to the old Ogunlesi cooperative. Then Abiola walked forward, holding her father's notebook. My father was blamed for the collapse of that cooperative, she said. He died carrying a guilt that belonged to more powerful men. Bambose gave a soft laugh. Grief can make people see patterns where none exist. Abiola looked directly at him. And greed can make men believe nobody will ever compare the records. Fumilayo handed the retired judge a copy of the ledger. Bambose saw it. For the first time, true fear entered his face. That book is stolen and fabricated, he said. A voice came from the side entrance. No, Chief, I kept it. Chukwuma stepped into the hall. He walked slowly toward the center, each step carrying the weight of 18 months of silence. I entered the approval codes, he said. I altered the beneficiary records under instruction, and I am prepared to identify every transaction. Bambose looked towards his security men. Kule moved first, closing the side door. The retired judge rose. No one leaves until these documents are copied and secured. A journalist lifted a camera. The flash filled the room. In that white burst of light, Bamboshe no longer looked like the great benefactor of Lagos. He looked like a man who had spent years building a palace over buried evidence and had just heard the ground begin to crack. The flash faded, but its effect remained. Chief Joseph Bamboshe stood beneath the chandeliers while men who had laughed at his jokes studied the documents held by the judge and journalists. This is theater, Bamboshe said, a desperate performance by people seeking attention. Chukwuma looked at him. No, Chief, theater requires rehearsal. What you built required fear. A murmur traveled through the room. Bamboshe turned toward the finance committee member. Surely you will not allow forged papers to disrupt a lawful investment. The man kept reading. These account numbers can be verified tonight, he said at last. Bamboshe's eyes moved towards the side door. Kule remained there, not touching anyone, simply watching. The retired judge raised his voice. No one here is under arrest, but any attempt to remove these papers or intimidate a witness will be noted. That sentence changed the air. Bamboshe had spent years ruling through private pressure. Now, every movement had an audience. Oluwasegun watched him and felt no triumph. He had imagined vindication would taste sweet. In reality, it tasted like relief mixed with exhaustion. Abiola stood beside him, still holding her father's notebook. Bamboshe looked at her. Your father made mistakes. Do not turn grief into sainthood. My father made mistakes, she replied, but he did not make yours. The documents were copied under supervision. Journalists telephoned their editors, and officers from the police financial investigation unit arrived before midnight. Bamboshe left only after giving a statement. The dinner never resumed. Guests gathered in uneasy groups. Some approached Oluwasegun with careful smiles, claiming they had always known there was more to the story. He listened without anger. Anger was too valuable to spend on every coward. When the hall had nearly emptied, he found Abiola on the hotel terrace overlooking Marina. The lagoon reflected scattered lights. The night air carried salt, petrol fumes, and distant horns. "Are you all right?" he asked. "I do not know yet." She looked at the notebook. "For 7 years, I wanted one moment that would prove my father was not the man they said he was. Now it has come, and it still feels unfinished." "It is unfinished," Oluwasegun said, "but it has begun." Mrs. Morunke joined them with her wrapper gathered in one hand. "Both of you have done enough standing in the night air. Truth has come out. It does not mean pneumonia should join it." Abiola smiled for the first time that evening. The first newspaper reports appeared the next morning. By afternoon, radio stations were discussing the ledger and Chukwuma's testimony. By evening, Crown Continental Bank announced that Bambushe was stepping aside temporarily. Within a week, investigators had seized records, frozen properties connected to shell companies, and begun receiving statements from former employees. Fear weakens when people discover they are not afraid alone. Samuel Aderoju gave a formal statement in Abeokuta. Adekunle Salami was arrested while attempting to leave the country. Tunde Karim surrendered the recordings and correspondence he had kept with Bambushe. His cooperation did not erase his betrayal, but it helped prove how the scheme had been organized. Oluwasegun did not visit him. Some wounds did not need another conversation. The investigation into the Balogun Community Trust concluded first. Auditors confirmed that Oluwasegun's signature had been copied onto altered payment instructions and that he had not benefited from the transfers. The formal letter arrived on a Tuesday morning. Oluwasegun read it in his study while Kunle waited near the door. "You are cleared, sir," Kunle said. "Yes." "You do not sound happy." "For 3 months, they called me a thief. Now one sheet of paper says I am not. I expected the room to feel different." Kunle looked around. "It is still the same room." "Yes, but you are not the same man." That evening, people began returning. Businessmen who had avoided him called, and suspended invitations reappeared. A senator sent fruit and a note claiming he had always prayed for justice. Oluwasegun sent the fruit to a children's home and kept the notes as a reminder that some people return only after they hear music from the celebration. The Ogunlesi case took longer. Investigators reopened old files and traced land titles through companies that no longer existed. Abiola and Fumilayo met farmers who had lost cocoa farms near Ijebu Ode, Sagamu, and Abeokuta. Some had died, leaving children who knew only that the loss had changed their families. At first, the farmers were suspicious of Abiola. An elderly farmer named Baba Sanya told her, "Even if your father was used, he was the face we saw when our money vanished." "I know," Abiola said. "Clearing his name does not erase your loss." That answer changed something. The compensation process began slowly. Land still held by Bambushe's companies was returned where possible. A fund was created for families whose property could not be restored. Oluwasegun sold one of his warehouses and contributed part of the money. "You do not owe them for what Bambushe did," Abiola told him. "No, but I know what it means to have your life reduced to a file on someone's desk." When the danger faded, they had to learn who they were in ordinary time. Oluwasegun was used to solving problems. Abiola disliked being solved. She challenged his habit of deciding alone. He challenged her habit of carrying pain as if accepting help would weaken her. Once, after he tried to pay for repairs to the Ogunlesi house without asking, Abiola returned the check. "You cannot renovate every memory with money," she said. "I was trying to help." "Then ask what help looks like." He did. Trust deepened because they learned to repair what they damaged. One Sunday in March, Oluwasegun invited Abiola to his home for lunch. Mrs. Moronke came too, though she disappeared into the kitchen after announcing that she needed to inspect whether his cook understood how much pepper belonged in egusi soup. After the meal, Oluwasegun led Abiola into the garden. At the far end stood a wooden bench beneath a mango tree. "My wife liked this place," he said. Abiola understood. He had spoken of Yetunde only in fragments. Bringing her there was an act of trust. "She must have been important," Abiola said. "She was. And you still miss her?" "Yes." "Does that trouble you?" "No. Love is not a room where one person must leave before another enters." He exhaled slowly. "You say things that make silence difficult. I thought you liked silence." "I did before I met you." They sat beneath the mango tree as afternoon light moved across the grass. Oluwasegun told her about the years after Yetunde's death, how loneliness had become ordinary. Abiola spoke of the anger she had carried toward her father for leaving her with unanswered questions. "I defended him even when part of me was angry that he did not trust me sooner," she said. "Both feelings can live in the same house. So can love and resentment. Yes." Their hands rested close together on the bench. Then Oluwasegun placed his hand over hers. There was no audience, no orchestra, and no scandal. Only two people who had become tired of pretending they did not understand what had grown between them. By June, the Federal Review formally cleared Abiola Ogunlesi of deliberate fraud. The report stated that he had been manipulated through falsified records and pressured into authorizing transactions whose true beneficiaries were hidden. Abiola received the document at Fumilayo's office. She read the conclusion 3 times. Then she took the first bus to Abeokuta with Mrs. Moronke. They went to Oladimeji's grave with fresh flowers. Abiola cleared dust from the stone and whispered, "They have corrected the record, Papa." Mrs. Moronke cried quietly. "I kept the papers," Abiola said, "but I also found people willing to carry the truth with me." When they returned to Lagos, Oluwasegun was waiting at the house in Yaba. He did not ask whether she was happy. He opened his arms. Abiola stepped into them. The case against Bambushe concluded later that year. He was charged with fraud, falsification of financial records, conspiracy, and unlawful acquisition of land. The legal process would continue, but his network had broken and Crown Continental Bank was restructured. No judgment could restore every farm or every year lived under disgrace. Justice arrived late and imperfect, but it entered the record where it could not easily be erased. In November, Oluwasegun asked Abiola to accompany him to the old Ogunlesi house in Ibara. The roof had been repaired. Children from the neighborhood played outside while workers painted the veranda. Inside, the ceremonial drums had been cleaned and returned to their place. Oluwasegun stood beside the largest one. "This house has asked many questions," he said. Abiola smiled. "And now? Now I want to ask one." He took her hands. "When you crossed that ballroom, you gave me something I had almost forgotten existed." "What?" "The possibility that one person's courage can change another person's life." His voice was steady, but his hands were not. "I cannot promise a life without difficulty. I cannot promise I will never become stubborn or try to protect you in ways that annoy you." That second promise would be impossible. "I know," he smiled. "But I can promise that I will never mistake your strength for hardness, your caution for coldness, or your love for obligation." "Abiola Ogunlesi, will you build a life with me?" She looked at him for a long moment. Outside, someone called to a child in Yoruba. A radio played old highlife from a nearby house. "Yes," she said, "but you will ask before repairing any property that belongs to me." "I agree." "And no secret security men." I will negotiate. Oluwasegun, I agree. Their wedding took place in December in Abeokuta. It was smaller than Lagos society expected and warmer than gossip deserved. Mrs. Moronke wore deep blue lace and supervised everyone as though she had invented marriage. Kole danced with great seriousness. Fumilayo joined the women on the dance floor, and Chukwuma came with his daughter, now studying nursing in Accra. Samuel Aderoju sat quietly near the back until Abiola brought him forward to greet the family. Some farmers attended too. Not all had forgiven the Ogunlesi name, but healing did not always begin with certainty. Sometimes it began with presence. When the band played the same high-life melody that had filled the ballroom on the night Abiola first approached Oluwasegun, the guests opened a space for them. This time, the circle around Oluwasegun was not empty. It was full of people who had stayed. He extended his hand to Abiola. Will you dance with me? She placed her hand in his. Now you are asking properly. They moved together beneath strings of light while talking drums answered the guitar. Oluwasegun looked at those who had stood beside him when there had been no advantage in doing so. Disgrace had taken much, but it had revealed a truth no title could buy. There were people who came when your table was full. There were people who returned when the music became loud again. And there were people who crossed the room while everyone else stepped away. Those were the people with whom a life could be built. Abiola looked up at him. What are you thinking? That you changed my life with one dance. No, she said. I only crossed the room. In the right moment, that is enough. The music continued, warm and steady, carrying through the courtyard and into the night. And for the first time in many years, neither of them felt the need to watch the door.